Hi there, I'm JP, and today I have for you a tutorial for how to do a nifty little bow tech that I've been using for a while now. I think it's definitely worth checking out, and I'm just going to walk you through how to do it and what it's useful for today. So the long story short for this tech is that it is a tech which allows you to cancel the end lag of a bow power shot faster than you would normally be able to, and you can cancel it into a charge step, which is obviously useful for a number of reasons, but we'll get to those later. So to give a bit of a more detailed explanation into how this works, the new very big mechanic that was added in Iceborne is obviously the slinger. And you'll notice that with most weapons, not all weapons, but most weapons, your character wants to be lined up with the slinger reticle. And if you rotate your camera, your character is going to turn with that reticle as you pan the camera. Now this actually opens up a bit of exploitation, because if our character is not lined up with the camera when we start our slinger draw, they'll need to rotate into position to be lined up with the reticle before they can actually draw their slinger. Now the interesting thing about this is that during this rotation phase, we are actually still completely free to act and can cancel the slinger draw entirely with an evade. So you'll notice here as I'm rotating my camera and performing the slinger draw that if I release L before my character is in position, they won't pull out their slinger at all. They'll just return to an idle stance, and this is an indicator of the fact that this rotation animation is actually cancelable. And one use for this is for switch acts. You can instantly perform a side hop, just like that, out of this rotation phase, because, again, you can cancel it. Now, that's pretty nifty, but one of the biggest and most important applications for this easily exists in Bow's moveset. And that is because most weapons in the game and most of their moves don't let you perform a slinger draw until their end lag is completely over. I'm holding L the entire way through this move, and you can see that I'm not pulling out my slinger until after the move's end lag is already over. In fact, I can cancel the end lag even faster with an evade than I can with a slinger draw. However, there is one very important move in the game that is an exception to this, and that is power shots for bow. Bow allows you, unlike most attacks, to switch to a slinger draw before the end lag of a power shot is actually over. I'll show this here. I will just perform a power shot and mash A. That's how long it takes for me to perform an evade. But if I perform a power shot and press slinger draw, you'll notice that that came out significantly sooner than the evade did. This means that we can cancel a bow power shot's end lag faster using a slinger draw than we can with most other moves. Now, that doesn't seem like it would be too useful until you combine it with the fact that we know we can cancel this rotation from a slinger draw into an evade. So what that effectively means is that we can cancel the end lag of a bow power shot faster than we would normally be able to into an evade by using this cancel of a slinger draw rotation. Here's what this looks like. Now, if you're an experienced bow player, you know that I normally would have gotten hit there by that pin. But thanks to the tech, I was able to perform that second power shot safely. In terms of exactly how much time this power shot saves, it's a little hard to pin down because Monster Hunter World obviously runs with an uncapped frame rate, but for somebody who's playing on a base Xbox like myself, this saves around 7 to 9 frames if executed very well. That translates to about 0.3 of a second, which in Monster Hunter is an eternity. Here we're looking at a side-by-side just to clearly illustrate how much faster this tech is. On the left you have the tech, and on the right you have just normal charge stepping. As you can see, the tech side gets through 4 shot cycles, and by the time it's done, the normal charge stepping side is just starting its final charge step for its 4th shot cycle. So, over the course of 4 shot cycles, it is almost a full shot cycle faster if you can consistently execute this tech at a high level, and with some practice, you can definitely do so. To figure out how we can do so, let's go ahead and move on to an input demonstration where I'm going to explain exactly how this move is performed. But before we get into that demonstration, there's two things I want to explain real quick. The first of which is actually a drawback of this move. I'm going to talk more about this later, but it bears mentioning right now. When you charge step this way out of a power shot, it actually resets your charge level. So you are at charge level 2 coming out of that power step, whereas normally when you charge step out of a power shot, you retain your current charge level. This is obviously a drawback of the move, but it's almost a good thing, because if it weren't for that, then all of a sudden this becomes a little too good, and camera manipulation maybe becomes too big of a part of Bo's playstyle. The second thing I wanted to explain is that during this input demonstration, you might notice that some of the inputs might seem a little bit out of sync with the clip. That's because I actually lack the hardware that I would need to simultaneously capture my Xbox gameplay as well as the gamepad viewer. So what you're actually looking at is a clip of me performing the tech, and then a separate recreation of my inputs while I watch the clip back myself. I like to think I did a pretty good job with it. It's pretty close, and it should do the job, but if you notice some things that are a little bit off, it's not just Iceborne's really generous buffer system. It has a lot to do with the fact that this is a recreation. I do apologize for that, though. I hope it doesn't bother you, and if it does, I'm sorry. Okay, let's go ahead and play that back again at half speed. Okay, hopefully that was a little easier to make out exactly what I'm doing at half speed. Let's go ahead and break that down piece by piece just to explain all of the steps to this move. It's not too complicated. Okay, so up until this point, it's all been pretty normal bow stuff. Just a power, normal, normal chain into a power shot. You'll notice that after my power shot, however, I started rotating the camera off to my right. That's because this is when the tech starts, and that is the first step in the tech. Okay, so now that I have my camera at least 30 degrees off of my character's original facing angle, which is about what you need, more is fine, but less is not. I'm going to perform the actual slinger draw, and to do this, what you want to do is tap both left trigger and the slinger toggle button, which on consoles is clicking in the right stick. So left trigger and right stick at pretty much the same time, and you want to just tap them both. Okay, and with all that done, the last step is pretty easy. We just want to make sure that we have released LT, because it won't work if you're still holding it down, and then you just quickly press A, and you should immediately charge step upon the A press. I don't think this is a particularly hard tech. If I had to rate this on a scale of 1 to 10 on difficulty, I would give it like a 3 or a 4. It is no doubt one of those muscle memory type moves though, so you're gonna have to develop some muscle memory for it until you really see what I'm saying by giving it a 3 or a 4 on difficulty. Once you get it down, you start to realize that there's not as much to it as it might seem, and also that there's no really super tight timings involved unless you're trying to do it perfectly. You just have to make sure that everything is performed in the right sequence, basically, for it to work. So I've got some, just some B-roll of some Tempered Elder hunts, some probably rather mediocre Tempered Elder hunts going in the background here. Nothing special, just something to play while we talk. So, just to summarize the input sequence one more time, what you want to do is when you perform the power shot, you start rotating your camera to the left or to the right. You need to let go of the left trigger or whatever your aiming button is before you start rotating, because otherwise you're not going to displace your character from the camera. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to create separation between our character's facing angle and the camera. Once you have that separation, then you want to tap left trigger and slinger toggle at the same time. You want to just tap them both. Make sure you do not hold LT down, because that will cause the tech to not work. LT being the aiming button for those of you who are playing on PC. Once you've done all that, the only thing you have left to do is press A, and if you did everything right, you should immediately perform a charge step. So what are some easy ways to mess this up? Well, me personally, the way that I most I most frequently mess this up, not that I mess it up often, like I said, with practice, I believe anyone can get to a point where they can perform this consistently. The way I messed it up the most when I first started learning it, definitely, was by holding down LT, not having LT released by the time I pressed A. That will cause the tech to not work. So make sure that when you do the LT plus slinger toggle press, that little tap, that you are just tapping LT. You are not holding it down whatsoever, because all you need is a tap, and you don't want anything more than that because it's just going to make it harder. If you mess it up this way, your character will do an evade, and they will do a slinger draw, but it won't be instant. They will do the full slinger draw animation. So when that happens, this is the most likely cause. This is most likely what went wrong. The second easiest way to mess this up, and I actually do still mess it up this way from time to time, and that is by trying to do this too early. You cannot do this cancel immediately after your power shot. It's like halfway through the end lag when you become eligible to do it. You can test out the timing by going into the training arena, shooting a power shot, and then just like buffering slinger toggle, because when the slinger reticle pops up, that is the earliest that you can possibly perform this cancel. If you try to do it sooner than that, then what is going to happen is that your character is not going to evade. They are just going to draw their slinger reticle and sit there, unless you press A again. So that is usually what you see if this was the mistake you made. It's kind of tricky to say exactly what's going to happen if that's the mistake you made, because it kind of depends on how fast your A press is in this case. But if your A press is fast, as it should be, then that's what should happen. The other two really easy ways to mess this up are if you actually press slinger toggle before you press L. You can press them simultaneously, and I feel like you can almost press it just a little bit sooner, like press slinger toggle just a little sooner than L. But if you press it too much sooner, then, you know, you're not going to perform a slinger toggle because you're not aiming in the first place. And so what happens if that's the mistake you make is that you just perform a normal charge step without doing a slinger draw cancel at all. So just make sure you don't get that in your muscle memory. And if you see yourself doing a bunch of just normal charge steps trying to do this, then that means you might have to break that habit. And then the other one is just not rotating the camera enough. That one's pretty self-explanatory, and if that's your problem, then what you're going to get is a full slinger draw and then an evade after, but no cancel. So hopefully with all that very, very detailed explanation, you will be able to get the hang of this move and identify any problems you might run into in the process of learning it. My hope is that this long-winded section could help you troubleshoot if you needed to. Okay, so what this move is really good for is it allows you to perform more power shots safely than you would normally be able to get away with. And power shots make up the backbone of bow DPS gameplay, so that's great. A full charge power shot does almost twice as much damage as a full power normal shot, but it is a much higher commitment move, so sometimes it can be a little harder than you'd like to find openings to fit it in. But I think that if you learn this tech, learn it consistently, and then get in the habit of using it during hunts, you will probably find that windows become much more plentiful for you because suddenly the commitment that you have to the move is so much smaller. There are certainly much higher commitment moves in the game than a bow power shot, but by bow standards it is high commitment, and it's nice to get some extra windows to fit one in every now and then if you can do it. Like I said, it does have that limitation of canceling your charge level back down to base, so you don't want to use it too often, you don't want to abuse it. But it is something that you can use when you're like looking at a really borderline type of window. Like I use it in Furious a lot to punish all of those moves where he kind of like gets up and shakes his head afterwards. I can get a normal power in off of those safely instead of just a normal power normal using this tech, whereas normally I would be opening up myself for a punish if I tried to do that. That's just one of quite a few situations where you could use this to hopefully get in some extra power shots and get in some extra damage. It's also a bit of an emergency evade. It can also function as that too, but it's tough to do on reaction because the camera rotation we have to perform kind of adds an extra bit of time that it takes to set this up. You know, normally if we anticipate with this, we can use the non-cancelable part of the power shot to basically make it so we're not losing any time by using that setup. But if we try to do it on reaction, obviously that becomes either more difficult or just outright impossible, depending on what move you're trying to react to and how much time you get from the read to when the attack actually hits you. So what I usually do when I'm using this is that when I perform a power shot that I know is unsafe or that I know is probably borderline, I start to rotate my camera just preemptively. And by the time I have my camera in position, I usually know whether or not I need to tech or whether I can just kind of go back to normal bow gameplay. So that's the way I do it most of the time. Every now and then you can get it on reaction, but it's not very easy. Can be done, but the opportunities to do that are pretty rare. And I hope that you can get some use out of it, and I hope that that gives you an idea of what this tech can do for you. So if you're still here, that means that you probably sat with my long-winded ass through the entire thing, or you skipped to the end. Either way, patience and intelligence are two things that I think should both be rewarded. So I want to show you one bonus trick here before we end the video. Alright, if you press Slinger Toggle and hold L immediately after you perform a power shot, like as soon as you can after, then you can make your arrows go wherever you want, including directly behind you. The Clutch Claw, ladies and gentlemen, at its peak. Absolutely nothing to see here. Certainly nothing broken. Alright. Happy hunting, y'all.